Good
evening,
evening.
Papa.
Good evening, Headmaster. How are you? Lovely to see you.
Same here. Were you a sprinter, Papa?
Was I, firstly, sir, please call me CJ. Should I address you as Headmaster, Himmat, or sir? What would you like?
As you wish.
Huh. Was I
Open
a
season of
open season? All right.
open season. I want those evenings.
Super.
So were you a sprinter by any chance?
I was actually super fit in school. So, I mean, I
Right.
was on most school teams purely, based on stamina. But
Hmm.
I used to normally do 3,000, 1,500 meters, and 800 meters. But
And the
I was reasonably quick on the sprint as well. So I mean, house teams and stuff, I was on all of them.
no, I just remarked because coming before time means that you must have been a sprinter in your
No.
youth.
I That's just me being punctual. I think time is one of the things I have the greatest respect for because
But
it's the only resource you never get back.
yeah, it's fleeting all the time. It's so good. So lovely to see you, CJ, and hope you're well. Hope everything is good.
Absolutely, sir.
And a big thank you for spending time with our educators, because that's really important, I think, to um, I would say, honor those who educate, those who are at
Absolutely.
the forefront, especially in a pandemic, especially in these days when nothing is what it is. Yeah,
Yes.
so very good evening to you,
Thank you,
and
sir.
to all our dear teachers, our hardworking teachers, our dedicated teachers. Thank you for what you do every day. Happy Teachers Day, everyone. I must say that it's a lovely evening to have dear CJ here. And CJ, it's not only what you bring to us, but it's also what you've done over the years, which we are very, very appreciative of. For example, being head boy of a school like Sana is not the easiest thing, and obviously you have to have certain stellar qualities to be a head boy in a place like Sana. So that says it all. And I also recall that you've been to Oxford for an MBA, which is again something which is wonderful, to go to the city of Spires and study there. I would say for any academic, that's the highest order, it's the highest honor, I would say. And you're spreading happiness, in a world that we live in, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. I'm not even talking about what's happening quite close to us, just one country away, in the graveyard of empires. I'm not even, referring to that, but I'm just saying it's a world which is not that easy to negotiate. And I'm so happy that you're bringing happiness to all of us, and especially to educators. And I just want to share that, the past year and a half has been rather rough for, of course, the planet, but also for education in general. For example, on the 18th of March, 2020, all our students had to leave the hilltop. And, at first, some of them, I understand, were a little happy to say, oh, we've got a week's holiday. So they went, with good
Yeah.
cheer. But when that week got over, it became 2 weeks and then a month. They were very eager to come back. They were very unhappy to not be in school, And of course, we went virtual. Our lovely and hardworking and dedicated faculty, they changed gears, shifted gears, unlearned, relearned, and they went virtual. So we had a facilitated virtual learning program, but wasn't the same as being on the hilltop. It wasn't the same as learning with your friends and your peers, and being in this magical place. But the good thing is, since at least twice we've got our kids back, and this term we've got upper six, lower six, and upper five back, and some more will be coming on the 8th. So, what I want to share is that in spite of all the odds, the team has endured, education has endured, and we've stayed in good cheer. So, your coming and meeting us on such a, I would say, auspicious day as Teachers' Day is really a feather in the cap. It's really, a wonderful thing. So, a big thank you to you, dear
Not at all,
CJ,
sir.
for sparing.
It is absolutely my honor to do anything with Sana. I've always had stupid amounts of school spirit, but also more than anything else, I have an incredible respect for educators because educators are the people who shape the future, and
Yes.
literally the world is in their hands, and they're the people who are responsible for building the character of future generations. I don't place as much importance on academics or a specific skill set as much as the actual character and attitude uh, that teachers are responsible uh, for for building, of future generations. And all my life, I have wanted to, and I hope to at some point actually teach. But for the life of me, I don't know what specific thing I could possibly teach. So until I figure that out,
No,
I
but I'll take you up on that one of these days, because the first thing we talked about, time management, being there before time, that's a brilliant life skill. I think managing time, managing yourself, taking charge, and I would say these are wonderful things for young people to learn. So I'm so happy you're here this evening. That also on Teachers' Day, and I just want to wish all colleagues great happiness, great joy, do what you do well and enjoy it, take joy in it, and let every child learn joyfully. Let it be exciting, let it be something which is a journey into not only the world but knowing themselves also, but having fun while doing it. So I'll say
and
thank you to dear CJ for being here, and wish each colleague a very happy Teachers' Day. Stay safe, never given. God bless. And over to Ma'am Nitya.
also sincere kudos for being able to teach during the pandemic. I mean, we live in the words where "Am I audible?" and "You are on mute" are the two sounds that are echoing through the universe. And
Correct.
to be able to hold the attention of a child sitting at home who's been stuck in his own home for 24 hours and weeks and sometimes months is an incredible talent, an incredible challenge. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much, Headmaster Sir. Forbes magazine called him the global face of Indian stand-up, and Harvard Business Review referred to him as one of the most influential comedians around the world. He is an MBA from Oxford University, a corporate coach, a motivational speaker, and a laughter yoga instructor. As a corporate coach, he has trained over 50 blue chip companies globally. He has numerous accolades under his belt. He has been awarded as Asia's and India's best stand-up comedian.
Nitya, I don't need so many words. I'm an old Sonarian, that's enough. Forget all the fancy introductions. Let's chat.
CJ, just a bit, just a bit.
Okay.
He has performed over 2,000 shows across 5 continents. He represented India in NBC's TV show The Last Comic Standing, where among 3,000 contestants from around the world, he was placed in the top 10. His maiden book, an autobiography titled Naked, was launched at the Jaipur Literature Festival in January 2020. We have amongst us none other than Papa CJ, an old Sonarian, head boy, batch of 94. Welcome, Papa CJ.
Thank you so much, Nitya.
So, CJ, we'll begin with a few questions. I'm sure our teachers are all waiting for a lively interaction with you. So, my first question, although I have given a sneak peek of your background, but please tell us your story. Did you always aspire to be a stand-up comedian?
Not at all. So I grew up in a typical middle-class family. My father was a tea planter. And when I say a typical middle-class family, I mean, firstly, teachers, you can please put your audio on, because if you're laughing, if you're saying something, I would love to hear your voices. I'm a comedian, so I feed off that energy. It's like when you're teaching a class and you want to hear response from your students, it's the same thing. So, I mean, has anyone here? So just give me a cheer if you've grown up in a middle-class family. Cheer if you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all of us, all of us grew up in with a similar set of values, and one of those values was value for money. So, for example, I grew up in a house where shampoo never finished, right? It just magically became thinner over time. Right? I grew up in a house where the bottle that had tomato sauce eventually had tomato soup. And yeah, and for us, all small things are precious, like photographs. Nowadays you see these kids taking photographs on their mobile phones. I saw somebody else, one of these millennials phones the other day, and he had 3 photographs of his pasta. Now, we didn't have that luxury, right? Because we had film rolls. And if you came from a rich family, you got a roll of 36. If you came from a middle class family, you got a roll of 24. And of course, we had those cameras. When you took those photographs, those numbers kept going past 1, 2, 3, 4. But Nitya, even after we got to 24, we would take a chance, right? Because sometimes you got that one extra photograph, it was like winning the lottery.
Yes,
So I
we've
grew
all
up in a
tried.
exactly. So I grew up in a family like that. At the age of 9, I was sent to Sanar. I spent 9 years at the Lawrence School, Sanar. I absolutely loved it. I loved being in boarding school. I had so many kids my own age. I used to come from Calcutta, so in those days, school party was that train journey. All the kids from Northeast used to get onto that same train. In the old days, we had the Kalka Mail to start with, which went all the way to Kalka. Then
Yes.
eventually we used to take the Rajdhani to Delhi and the Himalayan Queen uh, to school. I also remember it was always an adventure taking the bus up to school, because in those days you came from the Dharampur side and not from the Kasauli side. So that turn around to come into the school gate used to be very scary, because that bus, the tires used to go to the edge of the road, but the rest of the bus was hanging over the hill. So,
Yeah.
all the students used to be really scared at that point. But I loved school. I find that with boarding school, you either fit in or you don't. There's rarely an in between. But
Yes.
for me, I loved it. Of course, nowadays there's a lot of things that are a lot stricter when it comes to discipline and things like that. But in our days, we got slaps, we got hockey sticks, we've got. I mean, Himmat was in school before me, so he's seen all of this himself. But what happened was we were never really singled out. It was understood that if you broke some rules and you got caught, you know, you would get a hammering, for lack of any other words. So either you learn how to follow the rules or you learn how to take it. And it was understood. We all sort of went through it. But Sana was joyous for me. I really shone. I was blessed to have some wonderful teachers, some very kind teachers. There's a lot of them who I remember very fondly. I remember Mr. Soham Anand, wonderful man. Shamik Ghosh, who was my housemaster, Mr. Matharu, Mrs. Ram Singh, who was my matron in prep school, Mrs. B Singh, of course, Mrs. Khan, KJ Parel, who were fabulous, just the most interesting people. I still remember they would invite us home for dinner. A bunch of students would go, we would have dinner. And by the end of dinner, of course, KJ and Mrs. Khan would be slightly tipsy. And then we would all stand up and we would sing the school song, every single time. And it was wonderful. So for me, school was a fabulous experience. I really enjoyed it. I was in the school band. I played on sort of every sports team. And then the only thing I found that was challenging in school, of course, it's different now, but in our time, it wasn't considered the macho thing or the cool thing to be good at academics. If you were good at sport, if you did school plays, if you're in the band, that was considered cool. And I think because I was generally academically bright, nobody really gave me any sort of pep talk saying, CJ, you should study. And during my 12th year in upper six, that's when that whole plague thing happened and school got shut down one day before founders, which was absolutely heartbreaking for me, because I was head boy and leading the school parade and all of that. And we were shut down till board exams. So as a result, I didn't really, I mean, I can imagine what the kids must be feeling like now. And my batchmate Kumar, who's a part of the faculty now. In fact, I have to say this, hey Kumar, that if you asked me 20 years ago to pick somebody from my batch who should teach at Sanar, I would probably have said Kumar Gautam, because he is just such a wonderful human being and would be a great role model for students. So
Thanks.
then, no, not at all. I speak honestly. So then I went for college admissions in Delhi, and I had a file this thick with certificates from school. first in class, athletics, sports, extracurricular activities. But all they wanted was that one class 12 mark sheet, the board exam, which for me it was not so much the challenge of getting into college, but it was like a slap in the face, because it was opposed to everything I had grown up believing. I went to the Lawrence School Sanaa, where you were encouraged to take part in everything, academic, sports, extracurricular activities, dumb charades, debates. And the whole ethos was to be a well-rounded human being. And suddenly you go for college admissions and all they want is this one piece of paper. So eventually through sports quota, I got into to Hindu College in Delhi. But in those days, again, I think one of the disadvantages, and I'm sure it's changed now, is because we were on this hilltop, we were in our own little cocoon. And we weren't really exposed to all the possibilities and opportunities that were out there in terms of career options, So I was asked after sports quota admission, said, pick any topic you want except Eco and BCom. So I took something called BSc Honors Electronics. It sounded really cool. And in those days, it was very fashionable to, as they say, keep your options open.
Right.
We were told that, if you take science, then after science, you can move to commerce. But if you take commerce, you can't move to science, And also in our days, so to say, the brainy people took science and the guys in the middle took commerce and all the duffers took arts.
That's the same scenario now also.
No, you shouldn't be saying that, Nitya, not as faculty.
But that's a common misnomer. I think people follow that.
But I think it's something that needs to be changed, because there are thousands of unemployed engineers, but it is the arts that, today, if you think about the pandemic,
We can't hear you.
You are muted, CJ.
Yeah, sorry. I think everyone was muted, so I got muted in the process. I said, I think we need to change that perception when it comes to the arts. Because if you think about the pandemic, for example, what has happened through the pandemic? How have people got through? What are they doing? They're watching things like Netflix. They're listening to music. What is that? That's not science. That's not commerce. Those are artists, So I think one of the things that, and I'm sure it's changed now, but one of the things I think we missed out on from at a schooling point was that, I don't think we had, today I work as an executive coach, I work with, C-level leaders, etc. But you get a level of individual attention which allows people to help you build on your strengths and build a career that is suitable for you. I remember there were two different approaches. I was academically quite bright. So in school, teachers took two different approaches towards me. So either there was Shashi Mehta, wonderful lady, geography teacher, who used to make me sit at her desk. Because she knew that in 15 minutes, I would be done with all the work that was done for a 40-minute class. Whereas Mr. Abraham, I remember when we joined his class in Upper 5, he used to put me right, it used to be called the AV room in those days, the one you come down from CDH just on the right.
Okay.
He used to put me right in the back in one corner. He said, you finish your work in 15 minutes and then you get all these other guys into trouble. But, had there been some way today of saying, okay, here's a kid who may be slightly brighter, what can we give this person to do for the next 30 minutes? If he's done this work in the next 15 minutes. So I think that was something we missed, but it's not a regret or anything. We got so much in school in terms of everything that was done for us. So I don't look at it that way. So anyway, so I get into this BSc Honors Electronics. I walk into class and people are reading books like Physics is Fun. And I thought to myself, no, physics is not fun for me at all. With all respect to Mr. Ashit Mukherjee, if he's here, who taught me physics for a while. And as wonderful as he was, the subject did not. So then eventually I left college. I joined a correspondence course in commerce. Eventually got admission into Oxford University, joined the MBA program. It was a very difficult year because I was the youngest MBA that Oxford ever had. I was 22 years old. There were people on the course who were older than my father. And my father started work on 825 rupees a month. I had taken a loan of 30,000 pounds for this course. So it was a very stressful year. I did more job applications than my entire batch put together. And the second I would get a rejection letter, I would reapply to the same organization. And sometimes it would fall through the hoops and I would get an interview. But eventually I took a job with a consulting firm in London. I spent 4 years there. I didn't enjoy it. It was a technology consulting firm. The dot-com crash had just happened. This was the year 2000. And then I took a sabbatical. I took 1 year off. I went to the Edinburgh Festival. And I saw somebody doing stand-up comedy for the first time. Nitya, this was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. Here's a guy on stage. He's got a beer in one hand, a microphone in the other, and he's just having fun. And that was his job. And I thought, this is the most amazing thing ever. So I chucked up my job. 3 months later, I was on stage. I did 250 shows in my first 10 months. At the end of that year, I was completely broke. I mean, I would get up every morning at 10:30, 11. I would cook one meal for myself at 2 in the afternoon. I would get into some comedian's car to drive to some city in the UK. It was normally a 3 or 4 hour drive one way. I would get to the show. I was nervous. I wouldn't eat. I would be performing between 5 and 10 minutes, after having driven for 4 hours one way. Then I would drive back. I would get dropped off on the outskirts of London. I would pay the driver my share of petrol. I wasn't getting paid for any of these shows. This would be about 1:32 in the morning. I would change 3 different buses, sometimes waiting for 45 minutes in cold London winter. I would get home at about 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I did this every single day for an entire year. At the end of that year, I had no money, no friends, no relationships, and no life. But every single comedy promoter in the country knew my name. So then it kind of built from there. I went broke. I joined a recruitment firm. I used to work in the day, perform at night. And those were the days. I mean, nowadays, this word hustle is very fashionable. When I worked in this recruitment firm, I remember I used to go to restaurants, and people who went to those restaurants, they could drop their business cards. And, somebody would get a lucky draw and win a meal or something. When nobody was looking, I would steal those business cards. I would go to my office the next day. I would cold call these guys, get them posted into new jobs, get a commission. And that's what would fund me. In those days, we didn't have the internet on our phones. When I used to go to airports, they would have these business centers with different terminals. When nobody was looking, I would open up the browser. I would go to every single computer and change the homepage to papacj.com. So that's the kind of stuff. And then, of course, a couple of years here, I did about 700 shows in the UK. And then moved back to India, started off the English language circuit here. And I've been doing it ever since. I've done about, I can't remember, somewhere over 2,000 shows.
Yes.
But what gives me the greatest joy is that I get to see people at their happiest. I don't think of myself as being in the comedy business as much as being in the happiness business. As the headmaster said earlier, it gives me great joy to be able to uplift people and make them forget about their problems for a while. So yeah, that's a long answer to your very short question.
But you covered quite a few of my questions, CJ.
Okay.
So that covers up for that. One more question.
Please.
CJ, since you've become a stand-up comedian, has this profession changed your perspective towards life?
Completely, Nitya. Completely. I cannot be more grateful than I am to this profession. And let me elaborate why. When you start off the profession, you want the confidence that you can make people laugh, right? So you'll go for the easy joke. So the kind of joke I will tell is that, I live in Delhi now. And as somebody who lives in Delhi, I struggle to understand the language they speak in Mumbai. Like we call it bread, they call it pav. We call it pyaz, they call it kanda. We call it a servant quarter, they call it a 2 BHK.
Yes.
Now, see, now that I know is a joke that's guaranteed a laugh. Then what happens is we do observational comedy that goes all the way through. So I'll give you an example of a joke that I grew up in Calcutta. I remember taking driving lessons in London, and this instructor asked me, he says, "Oh, you Indians, why don't you drive in a straight line?" I said, "Boss, I am from Calcutta. In England, you drive on the left of the road. In Calcutta, we drive on what is left of the road." Right? Now, then we start doing jokes that make us feel intelligent. Either make us feel intelligent, or we'll use bad language, we'll pick on positions of authority because it makes us feel cool or edgy. So the kind of joke I will do is that I was going to the US, I get to immigration, I had a beard at this point. The officer looks at my passport, looks at my beard. He says, "You know what, you Indians, you're a mistake. In fact, India is a mistake." I said, "Come on, officer, as an American, you should be grateful to us." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because when Christopher Columbus discovered America, he was looking for India. So to be perfectly honest, you are the bloody mistake." Right? Now that's the kind of joke, it'll get some laughter, but more than anything else, it gets you a round of applause.
Yeah.
Because one, there's a pause and people are like, "Oh yes, Christopher
Yes.
Columbus did discover," they have to make a mental jump and they get it.
Yeah.
But also you come across as this, "Yeah, see how I spoke up for the country," and things like that. But
So it's intelligent.
eventually what happens, Nitya, is that we operate in a profession that has no rules, no boundaries, no guidelines, no social norms. So I've always said that stand-up comedy, or most art forms for that matter, is an outward expression of an inward journey. Eventually you have to look inwards. What are the things that you value? What are the things that you want to talk about? What is your sense of humor? Because if you keep trying to please the people who are in the room, and you'll have to keep changing depending on who's in the room. Then what is your voice? What do you stand for? What are your values? So
Right.
eventually you find your own voice, and your audience finds you. The people who don't like your stuff will automatically weed themselves out. But that sense of honesty then transports to the rest of your life. You're no longer playing these social games or going to these parties where you're doing where everything is fake and meaning. So as a result, you form very genuine relationships which are authentic and meaningful, and that truth comes to every aspect of your life. So for that, I think it's incredible. And also it teaches you how to. So I did a show called Naked, which I wrote 10 years after doing stand-up comedy. I believe there's a difference between a comic and a comedian. So a comic is somebody who says funny things, whereas a comedian has something to say.
Right.
Now, it's okay to be both. But I wrote this show called Naked, which it's now a book as well. And of course, there's a whole chapter on Sanaa, which I'm sure all of you will enjoy. But what Naked does is it uses the vehicle of my life to talk about the human experience. And it's a show in which I believe as human beings, we build walls around ourselves, which hide our deepest hopes and fears and desires. In this show, one brick at a time, I'm removing those walls and exposing myself with all my vulnerability, all my pain. It is terrifying yet exhilarating at the same time. And at the end of it, while you are completely naked, you are completely free. 80% of the show is very funny, but 20% is deeply serious. There are people in the show who have tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
And I remember when I did it for the first time, people told me, "What are you doing? You're a comedian, you're supposed to make people laugh." But the serious bits are the strongest part of that show.
Yeah.
Because the kind of connect you have with an audience after that, not a regular show, they'd come and say, "Oh, great show, really enjoyed it." Here, they literally want to hug you. And what happens is a lot of people find catharsis through that. They're thinking, well, if this guy can go through this and find the positive and find a way to laugh at it, then why can I not laugh at the things that life throws my way? That's one of the beautiful things of this profession as well. I had a huge road accident 2 years ago. I broke my leg. It literally snapped in two. I've broken my wrist. I don't know if you can see. There's a massive cut here. So there's a metal plate in here as well.
Oh God.
But even when I had the accident, I was being in the ambulance. I was going through various things. In my head, I was thinking, okay, this is really painful right now, but in 6 months, it's going to be amazing on stage. So I've written a whole new 90-minute routine around it, which is called Unbroken. So I think that's a real blessing of this profession, because it allows you to look at the positive side of life. It allows you to find the funny in what life throws at you. And not only does that make you a happier person, it allows the people around you to also find joy and catharsis, because you are able to show them the lighter side of things.
Oh, true.
So yeah, you'll have, by the way, Nitya, you'll have to stop me if you want me to stop speaking at some point, because if you
Yes.
ask me a question, I get caught up and I ramble on. Yeah.
For sure, CJ. Since you've mentioned your book now, CJ, what is easier, writing the draft of a book or scripting a show? Since you have a show Naked and a book as well,
I'll be
autobiography.
honest, Nitya, I'm first and foremost a stand-up comedian. I did not want to write that book. I had zero motivation.
Okay.
Even when I was given that book contract, it was lying on my desk for 2 years before I signed it. Because with stand-up comedy, what happens? I write a joke now, I perform it in the evening, there's instant gratification. Right? Why would you write a book? Either you write it because there's money in it. Now, if you are familiar with publishing, you'll know there is no money in writing a book.
Yes,
Right?
you're right.
Or you write it because there's a story inside you that you're dying to tell.
Yes.
I'm already telling those stories on stage. Or you write it for the ego trip. I wrote it purely for the ego trip. Yeah, people will think author and all sounds intellectual, like banda chashme pehenta hai. But I'll tell you what did work for me when it comes to the book is that the medium of print allows you to give your audience I won't say necessarily a richer experience, but a more layered experience. It allows you to go far deeper. In a comedy club, I'm obliged to get to a punchline every 15 seconds. But with a book, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Correct.
As far as this book is concerned, I'll tell you the process. I wrote the first draft in 10 days.
Okay.
I signed the contract. 10 days later, I went to my publisher. I said, "Ye lo, tumhari kitab." Okay.
10 days.
Then she looked at, because it's the story of my life. I know my life. I'm already
Yes.
doing it based on a show. So I literally anecdote, chipka ke. I said, "Here you go."
Okay.
So then she looked at it and she said, "Tumhare kitab mein dard nahi hai. There's not enough pain."
Pain in the book.
So I said, "Okay." I went away. I did nothing for 6 months. So 6 months later, she called. "So how's it going?" I said, "Bus, ma'am, bus. It's just almost done. I've been working on it." So then I spent another 1 week and usme maine dard dala. So then she read it, gave me a little bit more feedback. Then I sent the draft to my childhood friend Chetan, and he looked at it and he said, CJ, he said, "You might be a comedian, but your life is not a joke." He said, "I want you to write the kind of book that my daughters will be inspired by."
Oh,
So I was like, "Boss, ab to pressure pe dal diya." So then I put in a little bit more effort. I think I got a nice product. But there was one piece that was left, which was for me to look at the book as a stand-up comedian and find places where I could just put in joke, yahan dalo, joke. But then, of course, I had this huge road accident, which made life difficult. And as a result, I told my publisher, I said, I think you should just take it, take it as it is, which I think in the end is probably a good thing, because if you try and force fit jokes into the narrative, things that don't necessarily come naturally,
yes.
then it in some way takes away from the experience. So I think in the end we got an okay product, but in all honesty, I did not work on it for more than 30-35 days tops, but spread over a year and a half.
Great. CJ, I'm sure you must be fed up with this question, but I have to ask you.
Please.
Why Papa? Why do you want us to call you? I mean,
So,
a young guy like you, why do you want us to call you Papa?
Very simple. I started performing my stand-up comedy in London. My first 700 shows were there. I was the only Indian comedian in the entire country, right? I always tried to represent India in a positive light. I always spoke about how India was better, how India was good. One of the first few lines that I wrote was, "Don't mess with us Indians, because we come from the land of the Kama Sutra. We can screw you in more ways than you can count." So when I thought of the name Papa CJ, I think subconsciously in my head, I thought to myself कि अंग्रेजों को भी लगना चाहिए उनका कोई बाप है. So secretly in my head, I used to get a kick that, all these white people are saying Papa, Papa. So I said, chalo yeah.
No, that's really interesting.
So yeah.
Papa, just before I leave the house open for the teachers, especially the ones who've taught you, one last question.
Please.
You are called a man without a plan. Still,
Yeah.
we would like to know, what are your future plans?
My future plans are very simple: to be kind to people, to find opportunities to uplift them and make them happier, and to have fun. I think it's as simple as that. And how that may manifest itself, I don't know yet, but I always keep an open mind. I love people. I always have open conversations, and I find that I'm very comfortable with uncertainty. And if you have a good heart and you meet people, opportunities just come your way one after the other. You just have to be willing to walk through that door when it opens. But you've got to open that door in your mind first. If you can open the door in your mind, that door will eventually open up in life, and then you just have to walk in.
That's really amazing. Thank you, CJ. I'll now request, the house is open. Teachers, if you have any questions, you're free to interact with Papa for another 5-7 minutes. Please go ahead, shoot your questions.
I'm here for as long as you want, not 5-7 minutes. As long as the faculty wants, I'm at your service.
That's really kind of you.
Hello, Chirag.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi,
I can't
Mrs.
see
Suri
you.
this side. Mrs. Suri this side.
Oh
You
my
can.
God, how
Do you see
lovely
me?
to see you, ma'am.
Hi, how are you? I can't say how are you doing. You're doing well.
I have to show you something.
Yes.
I will just show it to you. I need a piece of paper for this.
You took that piece of paper 3 years ago also from me.
There's this piece of paper here. I'm going to show you something that you will really appreciate. Please tell me if this is your signature or not.
That's right, CJ. That's right.
I
You
can
gave me the
still,
signature and found it.
I can
You can still forge it.
I can still forge it 25 years later.
Yes.
So nice
true.
to see you, ma'am.
Thank you. Chirag, I have one question.
Please,
You
ma'am.
have a life which is itself very inspiring. How about interacting with our kids? I mean, this kind of an inspiration is a little lacking in our youngsters these days.
Anytime.
So how about sometime having an interaction with our kids?
I would love to. When
would-
Yogesh ji called me
Yeah.
today, I said I would be happy to be, open it up to the kids, to OS, to anybody you like. In fact, it is my dream that one day the headmaster will invite me to be chief guest. So I shall throw my hat in for that at some point.
Yes.
But I would love to, ma'am.
So I would actually want some time to happen soon, because this kind of a motivation is required in the youngsters.
Papa,
It would be
we're
my
going to take
pleasure.
you up on that. Yeah, CJ, we're going to take you up on that, and the kids will love it because this is really
Absolutely,
good.
sir.
But you have to moderate it for the kids a little. Yes.
Of course.
But not to worry. I was expecting maybe you'd make some lovely triangles and different angles and put forth some formulae and things. But that was wonderful. That's great art, I think, and to kind of do it so perfectly, talent again. Ma'am Suri,
Not
would you please?
No,
Yes,
not at all.
I am done. I would have my kids actually speaking to him nicely now, and then have the dressing down that the head boy did it at that time.
A lot of the mathematical.
There's some things we'll keep between us. We won't tell what the head boy did at that time.
A lot of the mathematical ability I have is thanks to Anju ma'am, who before she was Mrs. Suri was Miss Anju Makkar. So I've known her from then.
Yes, we've grown like that. Correct. True. And then you had a nickname as well, which I wouldn't want to disclose.
Cool. We'll take that offline.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's
Right.
lovely to see you.
Right, yeah. Same.
Hi,
Thank
Chirag.
you.
Hello, Chirag. How are you?
I can't see you, sir.
Here at the corner, I can see myself on the corner. of my
Are,
screen.
how are you, sir?
Hi,
So
how are
good to
you?
see you, Ashit, sir.
Acha, Chirag, I have no question, but I must confess, when I
Yes.
taught you, yes, physics was a fun for me.
I
But today, even I believe physics is no longer a fun.
I think, sir, it's not so much fun. I don't think it was an area of interest. Where I got stuck was that I went on exchange for 4 months. As a part of the Round Square conference, I went to Appleby College in Canada. So second term started on the 1st of August. And by the 8th of August, you had to decide which stream you were in. So when I came back from exchange, I mean, the obvious choice was, get into science. And I still remember that I must have got about 80% in my first term. I got 96% in the second assessment. And I still wanted to change to commerce. But at that point, just remind me what the librarian's name was, Mr. Sharma, right?
करके दिखाए उनके सामने अभी.
So Mrs. Sharma taught economics at that point. I remember I went and took permission from every single teacher in economics, in commerce, for me to change stream. Every teacher said yes, except for Mrs. Sharma, because she was the house mistress of Himalaya House and I was dating a girl in her house. And she said, there are too many children in my class. I said, no problem, ma'am. I will take a chair and sit outside the class. And then she says, no, you will bring my average down. I still remember this. So out of spite, I took up economics as a 6th subject. I wasn't able to change from science. And I gave the exam, and I still remember that year the highest marks were 79 and I got 73. So then I went to Mrs. Sharma. I shouldn't have done this. This cocky little child. And I said, ma'am, here is your average. And I wish you had let me change to economics. But so yeah, the fault was not so much of physics, but it just wasn't something that was for me, I suppose. But I'm still grateful for having been taught by you because it was always fun.
No, Mr. Ghosh has specially wished you all the luck. When he got to know, he got thrilled. He said, oh, Chirag is coming. So just wish him from my side.
Ah, wonderful. It was wonderful to have him as a as a housemaster. His voice still echoes in the way he was, come on, Shivalekans, come on. I still remember his voice.
I think he taught you photography also, no?
Yes.
Yes. Chalo. Okay. That's all.
Great to see you, sir.
Same here. Bye.
Do we have any
ask a question, please?
Please.
Yeah, I'm Priya here. I just want to share with you that, in the house shows prior to the COVID, it was quite interesting to see, at least in 2 house shows, young boys do stand-up comedy. So, I mean, I think you are a kind of a role model, I'm sure. And so it was really interesting to see them perform, and, kids who would never speak up before, suddenly out there, and, everyone's in splits. So it was really, you do have an effect.
I think, Priya ma'am, you bring up a very good point. If you think about it today, my job title technically is Hub Creator. I mean, that's basically what my job title is. Okay. But I think it's very important as faculty members to figure out where the interests and strengths of a student lie. Today, there is no career that is impossible. No career. True. But if we can channelize the students towards areas of their natural interest and strengths, they can be the best at it. So I think gone are the days where you say, you should pursue science or you have to get into an IIT or it's not important, And nowadays with the kind of pressure kids are under, I think it's far more important to have happy children with good mental health than stressed out children who are going to engineering institutes and are just miserable.
Absolutely true. Yes. But I must compliment you on how you addressed that officer at the airport. I mean, that was really super. Yeah. Outstanding. Thank you. All the
Thank
best.
you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any more questions, or we're good to close?
I think the Nilgiri House master should speak a little bit here. I mean, I don't know if that's a Nilgiri House master or if it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
They look kind of
Hi,
similar.
CJ, Chirag.
Hi,
Yeah.
Kumar. Great to see you.
Yeah. Nilgiri House master. That's me. Yes.
Still a commie. Sorry.
Lovely to see you here. Yeah. It's so heartening. I have read your book, and I must say you would make for a great author as well. It's a very beautifully woven story, and I finished it perhaps in one of the book that I have finished fastest in less than 24 hours actually. So it's wonderful to read that book. I want to ask you, we have done so many plays together here in Sanar. The school play. Remember Andher Nagari Chaupat Raja, where you became the king and I was the minister. So didn't it ever occur to you that you should get into film industry, become an actor or something like that?
See, Kumar, firstly, straight after school, when you grow up in backgrounds like ours, you have to, so to say, settle down, become financially independent.
True.
But I find that I like having a live audience in front of me. I like the energy of that. I like seeing the smiles on their faces. A lot of what happens in the film industry is that they spend most of their time waiting. You take a shot and then you sit and wait. Also, I'm not really, fame is a byproduct of what I do. I'm not drawn to it at all. I'm also not drawn to all this social media. Today, a lot of people's sense of self-worth comes from external validation. How many likes, how many shares, how many retweets. And a lot of this social media is basically saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I've never really enjoyed being around that community, which I find in many ways, I mean, there's a lot of genuine people as well, but by and large, a lot of it is very superficial as well. So for me, today, the fact that I live with my parents and I can go and every morning over the pandemic, I have gone and spent an hour with my father over a cup of coffee. No amount of career success could give me the kind of joy that gives me. Today, everything I do is a lifestyle choice because my priorities are to spend as much time as possible with the people I really care about. Could I be sitting in LA and shooting a sitcom? Yes, I could, but that's not my priority. So I think the decisions I've made are based on my value systems and what are important to me as a human being. I believe too many people define success, so to say, success. For a lot of people, their definition of success has been created by somebody else. So they spend the first half of their lives chasing this, so to say, dream, which we are supposed to chase. अरे यार Bollywood star बन जा. क्यों? मैं Bollywood star बन के क्या तीर मार लूँगा? I live a very basic lifestyle. I find a shirt that fits. I pick up 5 colors. That's me done for 2 years. So I think when you can limit your needs and live a simple life, then you don't need to be constantly chasing things. So again, this is a very long answer, but I think essentially the choices I've made are based on my value systems, which prioritize relationships and people higher than the definition of success as society chooses to impose on you.
But very well done, Chirag, for whatever you have done in life. I'm extremely, extremely proud of the fact that you have been the head boy of my batch.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just lucky that you joined in lower 6. Had you joined earlier, then maybe you would have been head boy.
Thank you, teachers, for all
Good
your
evening,
questions.
Haan, Alka ma'am. I think Alka ma'am, your
when
voice
you're
is
talking about your, journey.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are now, ma'am.
Hi, Chirag. Good evening. Okay, I am the matron of Vindhya House.
Okay.
Yeah, your talk was very inspirational. Keep shining. And I just joined last year back, and I just want to ask you what kind of pep talk you used to give to your, housemates, to your juniors. Any 2-3 lines?
Instead of doing that, what I'll do is, ma'am, I'll give you a pep talk. You know, in all,
I missed you.
I said I will give you a pep talk instead, because
Okay.
I will tell you this, that you hold in your role great power and great influence. You know, I can tell you today that when I was 9 years old, right, or 10 years old, I was in Form 2, Lower 3. You don't even have Form 2 now. And I remember at night I was awake, and my matron, Mrs. Ram Singh, walked through the dormitory. She saw I was awake. She took me into her house. I thought maybe I was in trouble for being awake after lights out. And she made me parathas. Right?
Wow.
This is 35 years ago. I still remember that.
Okay.
Mrs. B. Singh, the way she used to treat us, in your care are children who are far removed from their parents. They face challenges that they may not be able to talk about, because in boarding school, you've got to show that you're tough. The position you're in allows you to share with these children some warmth. You have an opportunity every day to show them caring and warmth. And I'm telling you today that 35 years later, I remember one small gesture that a matron made. And I think that's the only pep talk I can give, is that each of us are blessed with an ability to be able to improve the lives of others. And it does not have to be at any scale or magnitude. It's just a small gesture of kindness is all it takes. And you have that with you. So that's my pep talk.
Thank
for
you.
you, Alka ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, teachers.
Srini, may I ask you?
Please, Priya ma'am. Yeah. I'd love to see your face, Priyaji. You're hiding.
Okay, sure. I got a very weird T-shirt on. I hope it's
no problem. No problem.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to ask you, what has been your toughest show? I mean, how long would you wait till the audience laughed, or did it ever go wrong for you anywhere?
Of course. And in fact, for us, what happens is that we learn nothing from a good show. Because in a good show, you walk off stage thinking, listen, I'm the king. But in a bad show, we get feedback every 15 seconds. If they're not laughing every 15 seconds, you're failing. There's nothing worse than trying to make people laugh and getting 5 minutes of silence. On your way home, you have to ask yourself, if I'm ever again in a similar country with a similar audience of a similar background, what can I do differently so I don't look like a fool? So actually for us, failure is fantastic, because that's what helps you grow. One of the toughest shows for me, so I do something called the Happiness Project, where I find different ways of going to people who need laughter the most. So pre-pandemic, I used to go to the hospital rooms and homes of people who had been unwell for a long time, to bring cheer to their families. Of course, this is all free pro bono. I remember I went to a lady's house who was 80 plus, had her leg amputated, used to go for dialysis 3 times a week. And I performed in her bedroom just for her and 6 people. And there were tears in the eyes of the family members, because they had not seen her laugh like that. And I remember I got a message from her son 3 days later. I told her after the performance, I said, Auntie, I was lying. The show is not for free. Every single morning, I need to receive a laughing photograph of yours. So her son sends me a message 3 days later saying that, now when I send you her photograph, she wants to look at it first to make sure she's looking nice. But coming to your answer about the toughest show, as a part of this Happiness Project, somebody invited me to a home in Northwest Delhi, where a family had just lost their 21-year-old boy about a month ago. Priya, I cannot tell you the amount of energy it took from me to it. I mean, that's a difficult space. You know, somebody's just lost a 21-year-old son. I'm performing for that family. I cannot tell you how much it took out of me to try and bring some positivity or cheer or into that space. So I found that to be one of the toughest things. But otherwise, good shows and bad shows, it's part of life. That's, it's not a problem.
Thank you.
Like they say, either you succeed or you learn. So
yeah, I'm sure that must have been really tough for you.
It was.
Awful.
It was.
But I like this happiness show thing. It's a really great idea. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
Sana will invite you, yeah. So
I'd love
when
to
you're
come.
part of us, so yeah.
I'd love to come anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. We had somebody else's hand up as well, Nitya.
Yes, this is Ina. Chirag, I joined Sanar in 1992.
Okay.
I'm the art teacher. If you remember me, I don't know.
I'll need to see your
But
face, ma'am. Also, art wasn't an
I'm
area of
so
strength.
sorry. I know. It doesn't matter. But of course, I'd seen you, and actually, I don't have a camera attached to my desktop, so. I'm
the
really
excuses
touched.
these students make nowadays, I tell you.
No. I actually come to the art room and see that I really don't have a camera.
No, I'm joking, of course.
So, right. I'm really, really touched. I've got tears in my eyes, and just go on doing this good deed. And I think we all should learn from this and try to make others happy.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
ma'am.
much, Chirag.
Not at all. It's my
can't
pleasure.
speak anymore.
That's all right. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's very kind.
Thank you, Ina ma'am. Now I would like to invite our Deputy Headmaster, Mr. Yash Saxena, to give a vote of thanks.
Listen, as long as Mr. Saxena's vote of thanks is shorter than his CV, okay?
Thanks. You know what? It's not me who is to be blamed. It's Madam Jyotsna Arjai, okay? Okay.
No.
Anyways, what a
So you
wonderful.
have so many things to say to tell to the people. So wonderful your deeds are.
Okay, CJ. What a wonderful evening! What a wonderful evening! And first, I'll begin on a serious note. Thanks for reinstating the motto in each and every teacher present here in this interaction. Because when you spoke about your tough days in UK while you were pursuing your initial days of your career, and of course the grit and perseverance which you had displayed that time, never given is what we all feel is instilled in each and every child who passes out of Sana. Thank you, CJ, for that, giving us gain and insight on that field.
Not at all,
Okay,
sir. Though you may not win, you will still come in if you stick it still. That's the way we have in Sana.
Wonderful. And of course, taking out time in your busy schedule, and what can be a better tribute to the teachers at Sanar when you come back to your own school and give lighter moments to your teachers and remember them fondly. You spoke about Mrs. B. Singh, you spoke about Mrs. Ram Singh, Mr. Oshit Mukherjee, spoke to Ma'am Suri and all others. I think you understand that being a teacher in a residential school has got certain rigors, and nothing could be better on a teacher's day when we have this evening full of lighter moments. So on behalf of the Sanar School fraternity, thank you, CJ. Thank you so much, and keep on shining always. Thank you, CJ.
It's my pleasure, sir. Also, I just want to put you under a little pressure before I go. Is the only deputy headmaster I remember before you was Mr. B. Singh.
Yeah, and I don't have mustaches like him.
Forget the mustaches. You have very, very big shoes to fill, my friend.
I know that.
So no pressure.
I will be trying my best, although those shoes can never be filled. But with all your support, that at least little bit of that prodigy can be achieved. And of course, we would like to see you on campus once the clouds of this COVID pandemic settles down, and it would be great if you address our students, and that would be for the headmaster to decide whether as a chief guest or as a special invitee on some of the coveted occasions. So thank you, CJ, once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Over to Nitya, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. CJ, thank you once again. A big thank you for this lovely interaction. We look forward to see you perform live, as many have requested on DHM's request and Mr. Suri said, for our students in the near future. Thank you.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you so much. God bless you all and keep up the wonderful, wonderful work. Happy Teachers' Day again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Chirag.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ina.
Thank
See you.
you.
Bye, Ashit sir.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Anjali.
Bye-bye.
Chirag, I wish before I retire, we have one Kalka Bell party back to Kolkata here. With the same lot.
Ashit sir, I'm pretty sure we'll never be able to have the kind of Kalka Bell party we had on the way here, but that's a story for another time when we are not
Chirag,
recording.
I too use Swiss Scotch children on Calcutta party.
I can't see. Sorry,
With Oshit.
Is that Ina,
With
ma'am?
Oshit, yes. I too used to escort Calcutta party along with Oshit.
Ina, ma'am, when I come to Sanar, you and Oshit sir and me will sit and have an evening together. And then we will tell you things about the Calcutta party that you were not as privy to as the rest of us.
Right. I'll be happy to be part of it now, though I wasn't at that time.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Super. Thank you, ma'am.
What will happen to Chandigarh party?
Sir, Chandigarh party to peg laga ke aa jayegi.
So nice.
Super. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.